come from and where I've landed as a result of the Pure Leadership Power program with the Dutch mentor. So brief overview, kind of what's in this presentation and kind of where we'll start and where we'll end. Go through a little bit about my why, the individual development plan, affectionately called the IDP scorecard, my current versus desired behaviors based on the program and what I've learned, my commitment to myself moving forward following this program, and then really why everybody should take a consideration into this program. So when Walter and I started first talking about this, we went around a little bit about exactly what it should sound like. But for me, we really landed on pivoting from failure is how I ended up finding purpose. So these pictures, kind of represent that journey. So when I was a little kid, I was really interested in becoming a doctor, and that really stayed with me throughout high school, college. But when I was a little kid, I'd carry around my National Geographic medical books, and that really kind of fueled my drive and determination to become a physician later in life. So ended up doing the whole, application, taking all the exams, and still ended up, unfortunately, not getting accepted. But fortunately, was provided an additional opportunity from Drexel to be able to take on a public health program. And at first didn't know what that was, but after looking into it, it seemed to check all the boxes a lot better than even a medical school degree would have. So that gave me that opportunity to pivot from potential failure into success, get accepted into that program, and lead to where I am today with Epic Project Management. So the IDP is the individual development plan. And for me, from where I am today as a project manager, looking ahead, 10 to 15, potentially a few more years, where I'd like to end up in the healthcare executive realm. So what are the things that now I need to be doing to actually fuel my, potential to become a director, to become a vice president, and to become, something beyond those positions. So really for me, joining ACHE and pursuing the FACHE is top of that list. I do have some colleagues that I currently mentor. I need to really carve out those types of reporting, formal or informal reporting relationships, show that I can coach others and make improvements across the team. And also gaining visibility, acting as an integrator across teams, showing that worth, being visible, bringing that executive presence as much as possible, and honing that as I move forward through these roles. From a director standpoint, obviously getting to that point of being able to manage and have a team of direct reports, continue with that structured approach, really focused in, as everybody is today, very much on data, reporting, and analytics, being able to goal set based on that as well. And then achieving those strategic goals through the team that I manage or the teams that I manage. Getting beyond the director role towards that VP position, setting the strategic goals and objectives, really taking a much more active part in that process, facilitating success through all of the teams that are under my direct review. And then really seeing the bigger picture through the cross-team integration. I mean, obviously that's something that builds and builds throughout all these roles, to be able to see more of the true organizational strategy and how it impacts the day-to-day. And then getting to that level of healthcare executive, but as Walter has shown us, really everybody should be inspiring and everybody should be making the difference in the lives of the staff we work around. But from a healthcare executive standpoint, it's directing that organizational strategy and inspiring, many hundreds, if not thousands of individuals to work towards that. And also applying that business-wide focus to resolve some of those larger problems the organization is struggling with potentially, and moving the organization forward. So this scorecard kind of represents some of the things that we started off with, from the Zen measures through to keeping commitments, which we'll get into a little bit more detail on in the next few slides, and then talking through the 4 responsibilities as well, and how I plan to track those on a regular basis and move forward with them. So we started out with the Zen measures because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't be your best self and can't really be a guide for others around you and then move forward in a positive direction. So for me, exercise, drinking water, and getting an appropriate amount of sleep were the key priorities there. I did pretty well. I think sleep still tends to be a yo-yo struggle, but everything else is not so bad, and definitely keeps me in a much better way. Keeping commitments, we'll talk more about this and how feedback has sort of come into this from others and where the direction that I took based on all of that. But the big points of saying no and really guarding the product time that I have and focusing on the work that I need to be doing, as well as contributing in meetings, are really the two key items there. And you'll see a couple items here in red that are more of like a future priority, kind of once I've started to really nail down some of these items in black to not change too much too fast. And then for responsibilities, the two that I've most focused on at this point are loving those you lead, writing thank you notes, making sure people are feeling recognized in the way that they want to be recognized or should be recognized, and then leading through context and not control, making sure that I'm always explaining the why behind the work to drive to better outcomes. So in terms of current versus desired behaviors, this really centered a lot around what others around me see when I'm in a room, when I'm doing work, when I've done work for them or for their teams. And it was really interesting to see this feedback from peers through leadership and some of the themes that arose from that. So these are really those four themes or so. So work-life balance was very much high on that list. Not taking on too much, prioritizing myself was definitely some guidance that I received across the board, as well as stepping out of my comfort zone. And there were very specific and clear asks to hear my opinion voiced more, contribute more in meetings, ask the tough questions that maybe nobody else wants to ask, but are on everyone's mind. Also, to never stop learning and never stop improving. It's an imperative really across everyone, but the guidance that I was given was more specific to, really focusing in and understanding more about the business, the analytics and the data behind the business, the organizational financials, also public speaking, just because that is such an imperative as you work your way up through to leadership roles to be able to inspire others and speak clearly and with authority. And the last one was really to get a little bit more of those mentorship opportunities from the individuals in leadership positions today, those folks that I should aim to emulate and really hear from as well and hear kind of about their path to where they were. Also really awesome opportunity for that at Robert Wood Johnson. And then it filtered down really into what are the two very actionable things that I need to most work on at this moment. And those two, as you saw on the scorecard, were saying no. So really protecting my time and my focus on my current work and current projects to ensure that I'm not taking on too much, to ensure that I'm really putting forth my best self and not overextending the work that I'm personally able to commit to. And also being directive versus kind of always being helpful and going, that 110% of the way for everyone. So there's certain things that, and this feedback was from a few folks, but there's certain things that certain individuals just do need to do on their own, and you can be directive and not do that work for them. You can meet them halfway, kind of give a little, but they need to also give a little versus you doing everything. And then also contributing in meetings. That was the really secondary piece here. So sharing my opinions, not being afraid to ask those tough questions, and really just helping to put myself out there and continue to pursue this excellence in executive presence and public speaking ability. And all of that to say, where am I today and where do I need to make sure that I stay committed over the next several months until the next kind of pivot takes place, right? Until I have that next set of criteria that I need to really move on to. So from my perspective right now, it's really ingraining the 4 responsibilities. So love those you lead, lead to gain buy-in, not control, ensuring that winning environment, and using the power of focus. But the one piece that really sums a lot of this up and sticks with me most is being as soft as possible, but as firm as it takes to make change, to talk with others. That is used in every single way, all day long, working with other individuals. So I think that is really the biggest takeaway for me as it relates to this piece and sticks with me most. I think the biggest thing from a commitment standpoint, though, is to encourage that accountability amongst ourselves. So what I'm proposing for myself and a colleague is that I meet and continue to meet with one person from the program at least to really stay on track, stay committed, and go through, what are the things that I'm continuing to work on? What am I struggling with? Where am I trying to go beyond the things that I've been tracking, and then what's maybe those next few that I should start with? Helping to have that sounding board is important. And then as it goes along with that, continuing to measure what I'm aiming to improve, at least on a weekly basis, if not daily, for most of these items, especially those newer changes, until something's really ingrained and going well and cruising along. It should be tracked pretty often. This has come up a few times, but pursuing FACHE, it's very important, high on my list. And then also meeting regularly with my mentors. So I have some mentors that I currently have in my life, and I think I'd like to grow that list, but getting back to more of a regular cadence with those individuals is definitely important moving forward for me. And then the last slide here is really why everybody should take a consideration as to their own introspection, their own self-development, and work with a Dutch mentor. So from my perspective, Walter and then the projects and the work that he's put forward makes change accessible, taking what can be complex and translating into really manageable pieces that'll allow you to jumpstart yourself to really a new level. You'll be able to evaluate yourself, others around you, and make a difference in the work that you do every day. So I think it's a really important and valuable program. So Walter, thank you very much for everything you've done, and I really appreciate it.